Hey everyone, this is Shantae Nicole with Financial Common Sense, and today we're talking about the fundamentals of finance. Putting it all together, we discussed earning, spending, and saving. We talked about how much it costs to run a household. We discussed credit and how important it is. We also talked about investing and how you can build wealth for your family. And now we're piecing it all together. And we're going to talk about a few other things that we haven't discussed, but they are very important when it comes to everything that we've already talked about. So let's talk about goods and services. What are goods? Goods are just products that are made or grown. So if you go to the grocery store, goods can be fruits and vegetables or cereal or meat. If you go to the mall to shop, goods can be perfume that you buy or clothes that you buy or shoes. Services are when you help or do work for someone. So think about going to get your hair cut or your hair done at the beauty salon, or think about someone coming to mow your grass or someone to fix your toilet. All of those things are called services because you're helping or doing work for someone. To increase just means more. So remember we talked about investing? If you earn more money, then you've increased your wealth. And if you lost money, then your wealth decreased. Just like the stock price can increase or it can decrease. That just means it's less. Supply and demand. Supply is the amount of a product or resource. So when you go to the grocery store and you look at the shelves that have cereal, that's the supply of how much cereal the store has. Demand is how much of that product or service that people desire to buy. So let's just say you go to the store and your favorite cereal is out of stock. That means they've run out of that cereal. But people are saying, excuse me, do you know when you're going to get more cereal back? I would love to know when so I can come back and buy it. That means that cereal is in demand. That means people desire to buy it. Scarce means there's not enough to meet the demand, just like the cereal. Maybe there's only 2 boxes left, but so many people want them. So that means it's not enough for everyone. Available means there's enough to meet the demand. So if 20 people want boxes of cereal and you go to the grocery store and you see 40 boxes of cereal, that means there's enough to meet the demand, the desire for people to want to buy it. Spending, we talked about that earlier. To buy goods or pay for services, you have to pay someone money to either provide you with the good that you purchase or to help you or do work for you, which is the service. Wants, we're going to talk about wants and needs. Wants is when you desire to possess or do something. A need is something a person must have or do to survive. So remember, do you need clothes? Yes, you do. But do you need to buy the most expensive clothes with the brand names? Absolutely not. How about, do you need food? Of course you need food to survive. But do you need Chick-fil-A? I'm always talking about Chick-fil-A. Do you need Chipotle? Do you need Burger King? No, that is a want because you desire to possess it. But a need is something you must have or do to survive. Income. Income is money that you receive for working on a regular basis. So if you go to a job Monday through Friday and they pay you, you have earned income. Budget. A budget is a record of your income and your expenses over a set period of time. Well, what does that mean? Your expenses are things that you have to pay for on a regular basis, and your income is money that you receive on a regular basis. So let's talk about budgeting. If I make $100 every week and I have to pay for my cell phone and my electric bill, and I have to figure out how much my income is and how much my expenses are and how much I will have left after I pay for those expenses. Saving, which is the opposite of spending, is to keep and store up for future use. So here we have a picture of a piggy bank, but now we like to put our money into bank accounts because we want to make sure it's safe, and sometimes you can also earn extra money, which we call interest. We'll talk about that in a few slides. Remember, it's very, very smart to save your money so that you can use it to buy things that you want. Remember the story when Shantae, which is me, used to work and I spent all of my money every Friday shopping for clothes. And at the end of the summer, which is when I was working, I had no money left over because I did not understand the importance of saving. Investing, we talked about that in the last class. That's where you put money into something to make a profit. Well, what is that something that you put money into? You put your money into stocks. It allows you to own a share of the company so you can earn from the profits. Remember when we talked about buying Wendy's stock? If you buy one share of Wendy's, you are now part owner of Wendy's. So here we go. A share is just a piece of ownership in a company. When Wendy's stock price goes up, after you've already purchased it, you will earn money. That means you've made a profit. But remember, if the stock goes down after you've purchased, then your stock will have decreased and you lost money. Well, what's an investor? Well, investor is a person or company that puts the money into something to make a profit. So the moment you buy a stock, you are considered to be an investor. Profit. It's money that you have left over after subtracting the amount you spent from the amount you earned. So remember we talked about budgeting. I have to look at how much income I made and how much I have to pay in my expenses. Whatever is left over would be considered a profit. Donate. Donate is when you freely give money or items to help a person or an organization. So sometimes you might be walking down the street and you see someone who's in need. Maybe they need food. And so you give them money to buy food. Or if there's an organization that maybe helps kids with cancer or other diseases, then sometimes you can donate money to the organization and then they can actually help those people that are in need. Sometimes you can give clothes away to an organization if there are families or people out there who don't have enough money to buy clothes and they're clothes that you no longer want, or maybe you can't fit them anymore. You can donate them to a thrift store or you can give them to another organization. So your checking account, we talked about this in the very first session. This is a bank account that allows you to make purchases with cash or a debit card or a check. So what happens is you put your money into the checking account and this is where you do all of your spending. Now, savings account. This is a bank account where money is stored and saved and usually earning interest. Remember, interest is more money that the bank is giving you just to put your money in their bank account. A deposit is when you place money into your bank account. So as you see here in the picture, of course, we wouldn't take our entire piggy bank to the bank. We would just take our money, give it to the teller, which is the person who works at the bank, and then they will deposit it into our savings account or our checking account. Withdrawal is when you actually take money from your bank account. So remember, you can spend money with your debit card or writing a check, or you can go to something called an ATM machine and you can insert your debit card, punch in your PIN number, which is a number that you have to make up and it's only for you to remember so that you can withdraw money directly from your bank account. Interest. Interest is an amount that is owed for borrowing money and paying it back later. In this case, we're talking about interest when we're borrowing money, which is credit. You can also earn interest when you have your money inside of a savings account. A credit card is a card that allows you to borrow money, but you have to pay it back. Remember, we talked about credit. We talked about spending with a debit card, which comes right out of your checking account. But with a credit card, you're actually borrowing the money and you have to make sure you pay it back. Here's the debit card. It takes money from your checking account whenever you make a purchase. So a check. I know there's a lot of words on here, but I'm just going to try to make it as simple as possible. Whenever you write a check, you're telling the bank to take that amount of money on your check and give it to the person who you wrote the check to. So let's just say, for instance, yesterday was your birthday and I wrote you a check for $20. When you take it to your bank, you're telling your bank, hey, please take $20 from Shantae's bank account because she wrote me this check. And what they'll do is they'll take your check, they will process it, and they will give you the $20 that I wrote on the check. What that means is the $20 was taken out of my bank account. So most people write checks when they buy groceries. They'll write checks when they have to pay their rent or maybe pay on their car. So again, you're telling the bank to take this amount of money out of that person's bank account. So in life, sometimes we have to decide between wants and needs. That's just something that comes along with living. We have to determine when we have money, do we want to always buy it for things we need or things that we want? It's okay to have wants and needs, but we want to make sure that our wants don't outweigh our needs. Let's talk about credit. Well, we discussed credit in great detail during one of our previous sessions, but let's refresh your memory. Credit is when you borrow money that must be paid back at a later date. And many times, the way people do this is by using a credit card. Debt is money that you owe or money that's due. So whenever you use your credit card and you owe someone, that is called a debt. Whenever you buy a car, the bank buys the car for you, and now you have to pay back the bank. That means you have debt. A borrower is a person or business that takes out a loan and agrees to pay it back. So once again, whenever you use your credit card, you are a borrower. You have borrowed money from the bank and you said, I will pay you back whenever it's due. A lender is a person or business that lends the money to you. So if I have a credit card with Bank of America and I borrow money, Bank of America is the lender and I am who? That's right, the borrower. And once again, I put this here again because it's so important. Interest is the amount that you owe for borrowing money and paying it back later. Let's say you used your Bank of America credit card for $50 and they gave you a specific date when they wanted all $50 back. But let's just say when that date came around, you only gave them $25. They're going to charge you more money because you did not give them everything that you borrowed when they wanted it back. Your credit report is just like a report card. Remember when you were in school, the only way mommy and daddy knew how well you were doing in school is by looking at your grades on your report card. Well, your credit report is the only way that lenders can see how responsible you've been with borrowing money and paying it back. So you borrow money and you pay back on time. Every time, that means you are a good borrower. But if you borrow money, you never give it back, you always pay late, that will show the lender that you are not a good borrower. Your credit score is a numeric rating, which just means a number that they come up with to show how responsible you've been with your credit. So they look at your report card or your credit report and come up with a number based on the information that's listed there. If you are a bad borrower, do you think you have a high credit score? No, you have a low score. And if you are a good borrower, that means you'll have a fair or good or excellent credit score. So let's talk about credit. So the credit bureaus are companies that keep track of your credit reports and scores. There are several different credit bureaus, but there are three major credit bureaus: Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. These are the three companies that keep track of all of the information on your credit report and your credit scores. So we just put it all together and more. Remember all those things we discussed. Although we discussed it individually, when you put it all together, they are all important, which means in order to use credit, you must have income. Why? Because you have to have the income to pay back the lender. How do you earn income? By working. Once you earn your income, do you spend it all on everything that you want? No, sometimes you have to think about the things that you need. What about saving? Saving is important because you may have an emergency that you have to use money for, or you're just saving to make a big purchase for something you always wanted. How about what it takes to run a household? You make your income from working, but then you have to take care of all your monthly expenses like your electric bill, your cell phone, your car note. You have to put gas in the car. Just remember, all of these things work hand in hand. And when you're spending money, what are you spending money out of? Your checking account, which is where you're going to put the money that you've earned. So I hope that all of these sessions help you put it all together so that you can become very responsible when it comes to earning money, spending money, saving money, and borrowing money, and also earning profits by investing. Thanks so much. This has been Shantae Nicole with Financial Common Sense, and this concludes all of our sessions for Making Sense of Money.